Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Lipstick Chat with Ebony Fox. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, as it is so important that most of this information, get out to a younger generation of women so that they learn how to recognize narcissism. The last time we talked, we discussed my husband calling the police when I had entered my own home. Now, mind you, the police had already come once when the alarm was sounding and I couldn't turn it off because my husband had changed the password to the alarm remotely. So when I called the alarm company and gave them the security password, they informed me that it had been changed and that was no longer valid. I mean, who does that, really? Just think about it for a second. Let's remember that he also decided to drive 6 hours back home in an RV, towing a Jeep in order to get home before I fully moved out of the house. Anyway, I heard the RV pull up outside on the street, and I turned to my son and said, "He's here." You know, when you get that weird sort of feeling, butterflies in your stomach, or that jittery feeling that you really don't know what's going to happen because you know that you were trying to ease out and get out of his life before he returned. For some particular reason, my resolve strengthened, and I just was determined to just face things head on. And let's just deal with it so that if he knows, he knows. And, he worked so hard to try to get me to leave, to handle that narcissist reversal where they do enough bad things to you and around you that make you want to leave so that they're not accountable for you leaving. He can run around and tell everybody that you left him, which would have been true. So I'm like, let's just make this happen. So as he walked down the driveway, a police officer pulled up. A second police officer. Yes, you heard me. A second police officer. He walked down the driveway toward me and asked me if I lived there. I told him yes. And he said, "Are you the wife?" I said yes. My husband stood there and looked at the officer, and then he looked at me. He told the officer that I was moving things out of the house, and the officer looked at him and said, "If she lives here, she is completely within her rights to move things in or out as she pleases. This is not a police matter, so I have no reason to be here." And he abruptly turned around and went back to his police car. With that having happened, I then proceeded to continue to move a few things out of the house. Mind you, as I said before, I had no intention of taking everything because the place I was moving to couldn't hold everything. And I didn't want it to seem like I was just there to just clean out the house. Now, if I hadn't already told you, I had already moved quite a few things out of the house, as I had been moving off and on during the entire prior week with the help of my girlfriends. Ride or die girlfriends. The kind that want your marriage to survive and are willing to help you make it work, but don't want to see you hurting, don't want to see you dealing with drama or anyone putting their hands on you, people pushing you around to try to take your phone or any of the dramatic things that happen. One of my girlfriends knew that there were cameras around the house and didn't want to be directly involved in all of this drama. So we arranged for me to fill my car with as much stuff as I could. I would meet her at a particular place, and then I would transfer everything from my car to her SUV, and she would take it to my new destination. We did this for a couple of days. This actually worked out very well. So if you have any ride or dies that don't judge, please, everyone needs a friend. Reach out to them and ask for assistance. This is probably not something any one woman should be or could do alone. As I continued to walk through the house, I noticed that the RV was blocking the driveway. The police officer was coming back to the house and he told my husband that you have to move that RV. If she's leaving, you are blocking her in the driveway, and that would be equal to kidnapping. You cannot block her departure. I was so glad he told him that because I didn't want any drama, even though my son was there to make sure there was no drama. I didn't want there to be any. I just wanted to quietly take my stuff and leave. I feel like he wanted to be on his own. He wanted to be free. He wanted to be able to do whatever he wanted to do in this life. And I wanted to respect that and give him that freedom. So as we gathered up the last few little things, I think he was wondering how I was going to get the bedroom set out that I had purchased. We had 3 bedroom sets, so I wasn't worried about not leaving him with anything. And he came to me and said he would bring the bedroom set downstairs to the garage. And I thought to myself, how's he going to do that by himself? It was a king size set and it was super heavy. I don't know if he realized it, but at that same point in time, the movers I had hired coincidentally drove up. My husband looked at me and said he didn't know why I just didn't tell him I was leaving, because he had noticed that I was leaving. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. I don't know. I didn't really believe it. But it didn't matter. The movers had been instructed not to give any ideas or details about where I was relocating to, and they proceeded to go in to remove the bedroom set. I know that he also assumed that I would take the washer and dryer because I had purchased that for myself as a Mother's Day gift. But because he had given up his so that I could buy a new one, I felt it only fair that I leave the new set. So we went outside finally and moved the RV, and I waited in the driveway for the movers to get the rest of the furniture out so that I could take off and head to my new destination. As soon as we arrived at the new spot, I immediately laid down on the sofa that was already in the house and went to sleep. I realized then how stressed out I had been and how exhausted I was because I hadn't been sleeping. For 2 weeks, I think I probably got about 4 hours of sleep. I was drained. I was stressed. I was exhausted. And I will tell any woman, nothing is more important than your peace of mind and being able to sleep at night. I don't really understand why it had to be so much drama. I don't understand why he couldn't just tell me, I no longer want to be married, or I am not happy. We went to counseling for like maybe a couple of weeks, but yes, as you might recall in past podcasts, that he was just lying to the marriage counselor, and I just couldn't understand why we were wasting our time and wasting our money. People would come back to me and tell me that he told them that he called the police because he didn't recognize who was outside the house, that he had seen strangers outside the house, when clearly he knew I was there because he called me the night before. So if you saw someone strange at the house, why didn't you call me and let me know? So as I move along through the story, I just want you to know that I did take time after I relocated to not only look at him and the things that had happened, and I looked at the reasons why I didn't leave sooner because the handwriting was on the wall. But as with most women, we really try to make things work. We try to hang in there. We keep thinking that the person is going to change. But you know that saying, they said, if someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. I don't know why I married a narcissist. I know that in the beginning, who he was in the beginning and what he showed me in the beginning is not who he turned out to be. And yes, I did recognize signs that he was changing, but I always knew that marriages were up and down and that not every day was going to be a picnic, and that you work on things together in order to get through the bad times. You cannot work on any one thing alone. And I want everybody to remember that if you're working on something and you're doing it alone, it will never survive. But here's the thing. That move was the beginning of something new and different. It was the beginning of a new life, a new me, and a new perspective. It gave me the opportunity to investigate who I was and what about me in my past had me pick a narcissist, because a narcissist is not alone in who they decide they're going to be with. It takes two to tango. And so I had to take a look at myself and try to figure out, what was I looking for and why? How did it start? When was it created? So please like, share, and come back to Lipstick Chat with Ebony Fox. Come back so you can hear how I made it through this wild and crazy situation. And guess what? When they say they always come back, they always come back.